everybody to our number 6 Anpa webinar series on physician finances. The topic of today's is finances and retirement. What does COVID got to do with it? I'm Stanley Okoro. I'm the Anpa National Treasurer. I will be the moderator for this conference. We are honored to have our national president, Dr. Charmaine Emile, at this webinar, and she will talk to us about what Anpa is about. I think you are muted, Charmaine. Okay.
All right. So good
Take it from here,
everyone. I see my name is listed as a association manager, Letitia Dutch, so I have to fix that. But this is this is Charmaine Emily Faith speaking. Thank you all for attending once again. Thanks, Dr. Okoro, for organizing this webinar. Thank you, us guest speakers, for agreeing to come on board and talk to us one more time about how to do better with our finances, especially in this COVID-19 time. As you know, Anpa is very appreciative of all the service you give to us. Our organization is 26 years old now, just a few weeks away from that. We are 26-year-old stronger. We thank all the support that we have received. Our membership, we thank those that are part of this meeting right now and those that are yet to join. Stanley, if you can move your next slide, I will tell them a little bit more about our organization. We represent the interests of over 4,000 physicians, and our goal is a healthier Nigeria and a healthier world. We're obviously very interested in making sure that our physicians here also are taken care of, hence this meeting that you are we're all participating in right now. We encourage our members to become great leaders. I encourage them to network with with each other so that we can continue to grow. And we're very concerned on how we help our country, Nigeria. So we continue to look for opportunities to provide healthcare assistance, education, capacity building, all of that with our colleagues in Nigeria. So without much further ado, and of course, thanking Dr. Okoro once again, I will move forward and cede over the rest of the conversation so that we can talk more about what we're here for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emily Faye. Today we have 3 wonderful presenters. We will start off with Jerry Vessel, who is the founder of Advisors. We also have Sonia Fears with Wealth Management and Merrill Lynch. And then finally, Amy Kanu is the founder of Wealth RX for Doctors. So they will give us their opinion. The agenda for today will be retirement and coronavirus effects on employees and employers as Sonia Fears. Jerry Vessel would talk to us about the state of the financial market, and Amy would talk to us about asset protection and income replacement. I would like to remind everyone that the materials presented at all of Anpa webinars are for educational purposes only. The webinar is not intended to provide any personal or financial advice to you. It's up to your discretion and your responsibility to determine what's necessary for your own practice. Neither the speakers or Anpa can be held responsible for the material, opinion, or inadvertent error or omissions in the preparation or presentation of the material. Furthermore, nothing in the material should be construed as an endorsement by Anpa. How about that for a disclaimer?
That's great disclaimer, yeah.
All right. Without further ado, the first presenter will be Jerry. Jerry will be talking about Jerry's slide right here. All right, Jerry, you ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready to go. Thank you, Dr. Okoro. Dr. Crow, I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Jerry Vessel. I'm the CEO and founder of Vessel Associates. We've been in business for over 30 years. I founded also two other companies, Wellness Financial Advisors, and I partnered with a firm out of Atlanta, Georgia called More Constant. They are both comprehensive financial planning firms. We currently represent over 150 doctors and manage over $400 million in assets. Each of my teams, the one in Nashville, Tennessee, and the one in Atlanta, Georgia, both have certified financial planners and analysts involved on the team, and they also have investment specialists. So I want to thank you for this opportunity. They put together this presentation for me. I want to talk to you about pandemics first. I've been in business for 30 years, and I've seen pandemics going back to 1989. In 1989, was a real estate housing bust. The loan interest rates that back then were 12 to 14%. Housing market was down 10% plus. There was a great year of home repossessions, and recovery took anywhere from 8 to 18 months. That at 1989. In 2002, we had the terrorist attack of 9/11. We had accounting scandals by Arthur Andersen, Enron. We had a dot-com crash. And the market fell to the all-time 3-year low in 2002. In 2008, the other pandemic we had was subprime mortgage crisis. Banks did not have liquidity. People had loans that they could not afford. Stock market prices fell 50%. Now here in 2020, we're having the medical pandemic. And we have noticed in all these pandemics, there are 4 phases that people go through. You can go to the first slide, please.
Can you see it?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
You have phase 1 to 4.
I don't have phase 1 up, no, sir. Can you turn to phase 1?
Can you see the slides?
I don't see the slide, no. No, I don't see it.
So Jerry,
Can
Dr.
everyone
Stanley,
see the slide?
all I see is slide 1 with Jerry D. Vessel, President, State of the Markets. If you could go to slideshow in the header there.
It is on slideshow.
No, because you can see the
No,
thumbnail.
it's an animation, Stanley.
So click on slideshow right next to that. At the top of the screen there, you have an option.
Right there, right here.
Yeah, what you're seeing is different from what I'm. It's on slideshow. So I'm gonna end the slideshow and start over again. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because you're seeing my screen is different from your screen.
Okay. Well then, yeah, something's wrong.
Here, phase 3. I see phase 3.
Let me know when you can see his slides.
Okay.
You're not sharing right now.
Yeah, I'm sharing. Screen share. Right there. Okay. Can you see his slides now?
Okay.
Yeah, but they're not in presentation mode.
Okay, yes, they're not. I'm going to put it in, is it in presentation mode now?
Nope, we still see it in the regular view. Dr. Stanley, do you have 2 screens? Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay.
Can you see it now?
It's working now.
Okay, okay. All right.
Okay.
Jerry, can you see a slide?
I can see my slide, yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't do anything.
I'm hearing a sound in the background.
You're going to mute yourself.
And everyone mute your shit. There you go.
Okay,
Okay, ready?
go ahead.
Okay. The present state of the markets. I believe that the financial market perspective that we will look back on this time and see 4 distinct phases. Now, these are the same phases we've seen the last 20 years or 25 years of our life. Phase 1, shock. Phase 2 is hope. Phase 3, reality. And phase 4 is recovery. Go ahead. Phase 1, shock. We experienced this in March when the major stock indexes fell 30%. plus around the globe and credit markets froze. As an example of how bad this actually could have been, we talked to our major asset managers recently. They told us they could not get a bid from anyone when they were trying to unload a tranche of Walmart 90-day notes. Imagine financial markets contemplating whether or not Walmart could be able to pay their bills for 90 days. This was a shock back in March of this year. Okay, go ahead. Phase two. Phase two, hope. This is likely where we are right now. We're in the hope phase. The U.S. Federal Reserve and other major global reserve banks rode to the rescue, injected trillions, yes, trillions of dollars of liquidity into financial markets to keep them functioning. The government then fired up fiscal policy to the tune of trillions and rolled out the CARE Act to prep up business and individuals. This successfully put a floor under markets, and we've concurrently seen a good rebound in asset prices. The major issue here is that we still do not have an effective therapeutic or vaccine for the virus. Phase three. Phase three, reality. We believe that this is entirely possible that we experience continued market volatility from this point. While it's looking increasingly less likely that we will test March 30% lows, there still is a major impact from the virus being felt by the country for some time. It is important to remember that while the Federal Reserve can provide liquidity to markets, it cannot make over-leveraged corporations who have had significant negative impact to their earnings solvent. That's an issue right now. There's a lot of leverage out there. As solvency becomes more and more of an issue, and as losses amount at the banks, we expect this will bring renewed volatility to certain sectors of the markets. The worst pain will probably be felt in energy and the cyclical markets. The other reality that we face is the economy is not built on a 60 or 70% capacity, which means we need 100% of the people back to work, not between 90 and 100% of the people back to work, not 60 to 70% of the people in this country need to go back to work. Thus, we believe that the market could be stuck in this range for a significant period of time until we begin to believe that we are close to a vaccine or therapeutics that we could get us back to 90 to 100% of utilization of the working staff. Phase four. Recovery. That's the good part. Eventually, this too shall pass, as likely the world looks different in a new normal, if you will, from the January 2020 economy. At this point, we believe you'll see surviving cycles pick back up. We'll also likely notice that some sectors of the economy have been changed forever, such as commercial office real estate, because more and more people are working from home. Office buildings are being more and more vacant. Commercial properties are really starting to suffer right now, especially throughout the United States, heavily in New York City, heavily in California, heavily in Texas, heavily in Nashville. Commercial properties are suffering. And multinationals with extensive supply lines in China, corporations that have supply lines in China will be suffering because they're moving back to the United States, and the cost factor will be changed dramatically on those supplies. New trends will emerge, and these companies that can capitalize on these trends quickly will be positioned to do very well. At this point, we believe investors looking for growth will need to reconsider their allocations as smaller and more nimble firms may do better in this environment.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Summary. Once we get through the above 2 to 3 year period of time, which normally takes, because we've seen in the past, it's taken anywhere from 18 months to 3 years to recover from these type of situations. Attention will be turned to the massive sovereign debt overhanging the world's major economies, U.S., China, Japan, Europe. Major policy changes will be aloof, and we believe the growth will be ultimately proved to be subpar. Tax increases are a real likelihood as a kind of global austerity takes place. Again, it would be beneficial for investors to consider their allocations and tax strategies prior to taking place. It's important to consider that it's going to take 2 to 3 years to recover in this market. Against this backdrop, how do I think investors should react? Number one, update your financial plan. If you don't have We have found in our business in 30 years that you got to have some kind of financial plan or roadmap to success. You cannot just swing from the hip to be successful in this world, and you've got to know how your money's positioned. So if you don't have a financial plan, update your plan and get a written financial plan to review with your advisor at least twice a year. Rebalance your portfolio to ideal risks and return parameters per your financial plan. Rebalance, look at your financial plan, make sure it's current. Look for opportunities to turn lemons into lemonades for tax loss harvesting and taxable investment accounts. Make sure you can capitalize on tax loss harvesting at this point in time. Number 4, in a range-bound market, you may want to reconsider your strategy of indexing, Vanguard shares, etc., as these buy and hold strategies may not be particularly fruitful over the next few years. Instead, we would recommend you consider proven active managers and trading strategies that can provide returns in a sideways market. 5. Be very careful with your bond allocation. This is the most important asset class for you to review with knowledgeable advisors. Coming out of COVID-19, bonds are likely to be riskier asset class than the S&P 500. Investors that do not pay attention to this or work with advisors that do fully understand this inherent risk associated with poor bond allocation could be sadly disappointed with this asset class that they perceive to be safe haven for most of their investing lives. I got an echo.
Yeah, everybody, please mute yourself if you're not talking.
Can you hear me? I got an echo.
Yeah, somebody is. Let's everybody mute yourself. Go ahead, Jerry.
Watch geopolitics and protect your portfolio. Our opinion is that it is a flip of a coin if the European unions will be in existence in 2030. Cold War II could possibly take place with China as our corporations diversify their manufacturing away from their country and anti-China settlement intensifies in the West as a result of COVID-19. We believe globalization 1 is over and there will be winners and losers as this takes place. That's my presentation on the COVID-19 and on how we perceive the phases you'll go through. You're in phase 2. We hope everybody's safe and secure. We hope you all work with your current financial advisor. If you need help, contact us. But be very successful, be very aware of your money, and watch everything at this point in time. Dr. Coral, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Does anybody have any questions for Jerry? We will also have opportunity at the end of the webinar for all of our 3 presenters. Sonia, you'll be going next. Can you unmute yourself, Sonia? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Okay, great. Let's just see if this will work. Okay, it's interesting. Sonia, you are next. Okay, let's see. Presentation mode. This is having a lot of problem with presentation mode. Okay, it worked. Sonia, are you good to go?
I'm good to go. Thank you so much. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy and practicing good social distancing. And I know for many physicians that you don't really have an option, but I am praying for all of you and hope you are staying safe. And just wanted to, the topic of our discussion today is retirement planning and COVID-19. How has COVID-19 affected retirement planning? And we're talking in terms of employers as well as employees. A lot of people haven't thought about the effect and that it has on hundreds of millions of people across the globe. But in particular, here in the US, participants and plan sponsors, which are employers alike, they face tough financial times in the short term and possible longer term. And we're talking, the questions and answers that we're talking about is relating to retirement plans. Next. So what should plan sponsors or participating employers do with contributions and loan repayments deducted from participant checks? And again, so we even have people that have 5 employees, that the employees were on auto deduct to have contributions taken out from payroll. And if payroll is continuing and the auto deduct did not stop, the question is, what do you do with that money? And so, per the guidelines, and these guidelines are from the CARES Act, any contributions or loan repayments that were withheld according to a contribution election or loan repayments schedule must be remitted to the plan according to normal timeframes. So nothing changes with that. Next. And what should an employer sponsor or participating employer do with contributions and loan repayments deducted? I apologize, this is the same heading, but the other parts of it is that any contributions or loan repayments withheld, again, must be remitted in normal timeframes. For small plan filers, for small employers with less than 100 employees, they have 7 business days to remit those funds. And that's what normal timeframes are. And for other plan sponsors, those larger than 100 employees, the contributions should be remitted to the plan according to the employer's normal practice. Next. Does the employer have to keep making the matching contribution? And this is a question that is top of mind for a lot of employers, especially small employers who have a 3% match, a 4% match, or some kind of match to their employee contributions. And so the guideline says that if your plan document says that the match is discretionary, and so you would have to look, you likely have the option to temporarily stop making those contributions without amending your plan. If the plan document says that the match is fixed or required, you'll need to explore the reasons for that treatment. So meaning you will be able to, but the reasons could be because your business is not making enough revenue because of COVID, but the reasons would need to be explored and the definitions defined in the document. If you're matching contribution to satisfy an ADP or ACP safe harbor, you may be more restricted in what you can do. And so again, you must look at your plan document if you are an employer and you're seeking to stop the matching contributions. Next. And non-matching contributions. And these are contributions in which the employee is not contributing anything. Does the employer, are they required to make these? And again, if the contribution is discretionary, you likely can suspend or reduce the contribution without amending the plan. And if the contribution is for a money purchase, pension, or a DB plan, you are able to suspend or reduce those contributions. Next. Can a plan participant stop paying on a loan from the plan? And this is a big question for many employees who are repaying loans that they have in their 401ks or retirement plan. And the CARES Act allows certain participants to suspend loan payments that were scheduled to occur between the effective date of the act, which was March 27th, and December 31st, 2020. And these repayments may be suspended for 1 year. And in order to qualify for the suspension, and this is the same qualifications for taking loans out, accessing the 100,000, and you'll see later in the presentation. The person was diagnosed with COVID-19 by a test approved by CDC. The person's spouse or dependent is so diagnosed by such a test, and these are the qualifications. Or this is a person who experienced adverse financial consequences as a result of being quarantined. Being laid off or furloughed, or having work hours reduced due to the virus, or being unable to work due to lack of childcare due to the virus, or closing or reducing hours of business owned or operated by the individual due to the virus, and other factors as determined by the Secretary of the Treasury. Next. And again, is it possible for a participant or employee to qualify for hardship withdrawal to pay necessary expenses? And this is one area, unfortunately, in which the guidelines have not changed at all. These criterias are still the same as they were prior to COVID-19 outbreak. Next. And can a participant receive a coronavirus-related distribution from the plan? And so this is the CRD distribution, as it's coded by the CARES Act, can be taken from 401k, 403b, and even 457b governmental plans. And the qualifications are the same as I just read prior. And a participant may withdraw up to $100,000 as a CRD related distribution. And it's important to note that this $100,000 is in addition to any other loans that's already that were taken prior to electing to get this distribution. And for most plan participants, it's important to know that, and I don't believe I covered this in the slide, that this withdrawal, CRD related withdrawal, can be repaid over 3 years. And if the participant choose not to repay it, then the addition to income can be also spread over the next 3 years. Next slide. And what is the difference between furloughed and laid off and terminated? And so these terms are referred to in the CARES Act. And basically a good rule of thumb is that furloughed or laid off are people who are intended to be recalled to work at some point, and even if that's an undetermined point in the future. And terminated employees are not expected to return to work, and their employment is considered to be severed. And that's important for people who are looking to collect unemployment, because if you're furloughed or you're laid off and you're expected to return to work, then the unemployment may not be available, because the employer would not have put into the system that you're terminated. And terminated employees, the employers, when the Department of Treasury checks, would be able to get unemployment right away. Next. And the CARES Act relief, and this is just an overview. Distributions, again, up to 100,000. Eligible participants, the same criteria as I identified before. Next. Participant loans. And this changes just a little bit from the distribution because the coronavirus related loans is the lesser of 100,000 or 100% of the participants' vested account balance on March 27, 2020. And it is important to note that the loan maximum before was 50,000 and it's now up to 100,000. But any previous loans that are taken out by an employee would be netted against this 100,000 maximum that can be taken out. And loan repayments will not be required to begin until 1 year following the date of the loan. If the participant already has, as I said, an outstanding loan as of March 27, then the loan repayments for that loan would not be due between March 27th and December 31st of this year. And so it can be suspended for an additional 1 year. And while loan repayments are delayed, interest will accrue on such new and outstanding loans. The maximum 5-year period associated with both new and outstanding loans will be extended by the 1-year suspension period. Eligible participants are defined above, as I indicated before. Last thing that I want to mention, and this should have been on a different slide, RMDs, required minimum distribution. For participants who are currently taking RMDs, that requirement to take RMDs is suspended for the remainder of 2020. Next, I believe that is the last slide. Again, thank you. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions regarding distributions from your retirement plans as an employer or as an employee. Hope everyone stays safe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Does anybody have any questions for Sonia? Our next presenter is Anyi Kano, and he's provided this interesting video.
Okay, Judy, put that in our calendar. Yeah, I'll let him know as soon as we're done. Okay. Thanks. Our call with the attorneys is tomorrow at 8. Judy, move your first patient to 9. We really don't need this. I know, but we have to defend it as best we can. They're going to pull everyone into this suit. That law firm's aggressive. And I hear they're really good at what they do. Now, if we lose this, could the settlement exceed the cat fund? Absolutely. Why do you think both my houses are in Jeanette's name? Jeanette owns both houses? On paper. So they can't touch those? Correct. Wait a minute. My house is in both our names. Actually, everything is. Are you telling me I'm exposed here? I think so, Eric. Your assets become fair game. And if the settlement exceeds the malpractice insurance, well, they'll go wherever they can to find money. So how do I fix this? I don't know. This stuff's supposed to be set up in advance, I'm pretty sure. Oh, boy. I need to talk to my attorney. Did I miss a class in med school? Yeah, hey, is Frank there?
All right. I'm going to present Anyi's slide. Anyi, are you ready to go? You might be muted, Anyi.
All right. Okay, there we go.
Are you good?
I believe so. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Give me a minute.
Terrific.
I think there's a delay in this thing pulling up the slides. Let's see. All right, I think we're good.
I think you have a slide before that one.
That's it?
Yeah,
All right,
let's see here.
go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, you're gonna run the slides, right?
yes, just hit
Okay.
next. Tell me next time I'm moving.
Okay, terrific. Good morning, AMPA members and friends. I'd really like to start this morning on a rather somber note. AMPA lost one of its own this past week. A bright young star, best of breed, truly one of the best in his specialty. We lost him this past week at 35.
Wow.
35 years old, my friends. A Nigerian physician, special with one of the, top specialties in medicine. 35 years old, a master of his game. By the way, his mother is also a Nigerian physician here in the Americas. I will ask that we hold his family up in prayer. We also hold AMPA up in prayer because I know that our physicians here are in the line of fire. By the way, he did not die of the COVID. He died of some other things. I'm not in medicine, so I can't speculate about those things. But I also know a number of physicians who have died of COVID. Yesterday, I had to talk to two people who could be in their last week on Earth. That's how grim this could be. So things are looking up, yes, but the battle is still to be won. My friends, I ask you to hold the family that I speak of up in prayer. Secondly, I want to thank Dr. Okoro for having the vision and foresight to establish this resource as a benefit for all of AMPA's membership. This is a benefit of membership, and AMPA, Dr. Okoro in particular, has been very clear that promoting professional best practices among AMPA members and ensuring financial intelligence are among his priorities and his vision as a member of AMPA's leadership team. Thank you very much, Dr. Okoro.
Okay.
I've expressed appreciation to all of you physicians in this COVID war because I know you're in the direct line of fire. We thank you all very much. Now to the subject matter at hand. You've heard from Mr. Vessel and you've heard from Ms. Fears. My job is to highlight some of the items that they have presented and bring it all home with a brief on asset protection. The video you saw is typical: asset protection, income replacement, planning, etc. Go on to the next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Can you see it?
No, I can't.
I can see it.
Just
Can you see it?
I can
Yeah.
see it, yes, sir. Protect your asset.
Okay, wait a minute here. Let's see what's happening. Okay, protect the asset. Now I can see it. Thank you. Protect the asset. Before I get into my own subject, I wanted to highlight some of the takeaways from Mr. Vessel's presentation, and then I'll talk about Ms. Fears. Some of the things that I would hope you paid and pay attention to are the phases that he talked about, from shock, which we went through, particularly in March, to the recovery, the reality phase that we are somewhat confronted with at this time, and the adjustments that we're making. It is clear that we're not in the recovery phase yet. I think it's important to understand these 4 phases that he talked about. The other thing I want to highlight is he talked about planning. He talked about updating your plan. Now, before you update a plan, you have to have a plan. So my friends, I think it's important that you understand that you must have a plan. Have a plan if you don't have one. Update your financial plan if you do have one. Look at where you're going from a rebalancing standpoint. Focus on your goals. The rebalancing would inform the asset allocation and your risk tolerance, like that. So this is where professional guidance is extremely important. So those are some of the highlights of his presentation. I'm going to touch on Ms. Sears. One of the real important things here is the coronavirus, the $100,000 that you can take out of your retirement accounts and what that could mean. In understanding that from a strategic standpoint, I think it's important to consult with an advisor on how you can actually maximize that opportunity for those who are affected by COVID. There are certain criteria, this COVID-related distribution, CRD, that you have to meet in order to qualify for the $100,000 distribution. It also is available to affected people who would be your relatives. Your spouse, for example, could have access to the same opportunity. The strategic opportunity there is how you utilize this in potentially rebalancing. Again, you need to really be very thoughtful in how you apply this. So you need to talk to your advisors about that, how you could apply this. And again, this has to affect you from a COVID standpoint. So that to me is an important part of the presentation from, one of the important parts of the presentation from Sonia. I would suggest that, again, you talk to your advisors about how to implement some of those things if you're affected. Thank you. Now let me talk about asset protection as it relates to you, the physician. Most people go to school, and physicians, in our opinion, have a compressed earning cycle. They come out and they're earning a significant amount of money. And one of the things that happens is they do not have a full appreciation for that capacity that they have to earn. And what happens is they don't realize that your capacity to earn is the most important asset that you have. Next slide, please. You come out of school, and some of you, if you're not living this dream already, you envision your future in a big house, a mansion, have expensive cars and things like that. What you don't pay attention to is this good life is actually the result of your capacity to earn, which is why it is the most important asset that you have. Go on to the next slide, please.
It's done.
The house that you saw in the first slide now has you and a machine in front of it. You are this machine cranking out money. You're this machine that's cranking out money. And what happens is a lot of times doctors don't realize that you are the most important asset that you need to protect. You saw in the video some of the exposure that you have. We do have other videos in our library that speak to other problems that arise with high income earners and high asset owners and things like that. But your capacity to earn is your money machine. So my friends, here's the thing about this. How are you protecting your money machine today? Because this money machine needs to be protected, it needs to be serviced, and it needs to be nurtured. Are you doing that? Are you protecting the asset? Have you taken the steps that would enable you to not have any problems if something happened to your money machine, which is your capacity to earn? I'm going to share with you the importance of that. Go on to the next slide. In this slide, and we talk about your most important asset being your capacity to earn. I'm sure that as you look back at the previous slides, you saw the big house, you own big cars and things like that. And when we talk about your most important asset, most of you don't think in terms of this capacity to earn. You insure your $100,000 automobiles without thinking about it. You insure your homes against losses without thinking about it. But I would suspect and bet on the fact that more than one of us in this audience today don't have a full appreciation for what your potential earnings are worth. I don't know what your ages are, but here's what this graph or this chart is explaining to you. Let's take a 30-year-old, and this 30-year-old is going to practice for another 30 years, 35 years. And you can pretty much pick where you fit in the spectrum. You can do a multiplier if you're earning more. This is just a simple graphic to help you understand the importance of protecting the asset. A 30-year-old earning $250,000 a year, which is very median for medical practices. 30-year-old earning $250,000 a year with a 3% raise starting at 30. At age 65, they would have earned $15 million, more than $15 million at a 3% raise. So my friends, if you're insuring a $100,000 automobile, have you protected your $15 million income? If you're 40, or if you're earning $400,000, you're talking about $25 million. This is supposed to give you some perspective on how important this is. Easily protecting your $100,000 investment, but not protecting your most important asset, your $25,000 investment if you're 30 and earning $400,000. So I hope that you can come away from this with an understanding of the importance of protecting that asset. I really want to stop here because I think it's important to understand what this is about. We're talking about retirement, we're talking about the future. The foundation to a successful future is protection. I have a book coming out at the end of this year, all things being equal. It's called The Canoe Path to Wealth. That foundation is, the foundation for the path to wealth is cash flow. It is avoiding losses. It is harvesting taxes efficiently. It is evidence-based growth of the assets that you accumulate. It is investing tax-free, and it is transferring assets and transferring your legacy efficiently. This is important and an important foundation, avoiding losses, protecting yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anyi.
I'm going to take questions because I think this is a very important aspect of the planning. It is a foundation on which almost everything else is built. Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you. Thank you, Anyi. I'm going to open it up to questions to everyone, including Anyi, the last speaker. Does anybody have any questions for Anyi?
I can start, Stanley.
Go ahead.
Can you go back to the last slide?
Anyi's last slide?
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Kano, for the presentation. And even more importantly, thank you for even acknowledging our Anpa member. What you wouldn't even know is it hits closer to home in Georgia here for us. So we do actually appreciate the fact that you brought it up. So thank you so much you're almost feeling like a member. So thanks.
My wife is a member. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So that's the explanation. Thank you so much. We live and learn. We appreciate it. Anyway, so I want to go back to this slide. I'm not quite sure I understand it, and I'm not sure that everybody else does. And I don't mind asking the question of being that one that says, I don't get it. So at 30, looking at where you have it circled in red, I see 15 million as what we potentially will earn in a lifetime. Is that what you're saying? If
No.
you are 30 and earning 250,000 at that time at 30. So are you proposing that we protect ourselves for 15 million watt? Whereas if you're 55, which is the lowest slide there, when you want to protect yourself for a 2 million watt, is that what I'm supposed to derive from this? Assuming that 250,000 is the focus of the annual salary.
Sure, thank you. That is an exceptional question. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Yes.
Terrific. That is an exceptional question, and I'm so glad you asked the question for clarification. What this is providing you is some guidance about potential. Emphasis is on potential, that's the first thing. And the second thing is the time frame. We used age 65 as the age at which, let's just assume somebody is going to retire at 65. So if you are, I'm going to skip the 30-year-old, if you are 35 years old and you're earning $400,000, so if you go down to 35 age and go down to 400,000, you're going to earn from 35 to 65, which is 30 years, approximately $20 million if you're getting a 3% raise. What happens is over that period of time, from a planning standpoint, what you want to do is look at what the good life means to you and what it is. The importance is when you look at a $20,000 potential earning, what do you do with $20 million? I'm sorry, when you look at a $20 million potential in earnings, what does that mean? Because these are futuristic. What happens is us professionals in this arena, what we do is we discount your potential earnings and create for you what it would cost you and what income stream you're going to need in order to make up and live the life that you envision living in that time frame. Now, when you're older, you may have assets already accumulated, tangible assets as we call them, you know, the homes and things like that, and maybe some retirement assets and so on. But the problem here is sometimes people lose sight of, look, I'm making $1 million a year. If I'm making $1 million a year and something happens to me right now, and I'm living $1 million lifestyle, if something happens to me, what does that mean to me, to my family. As a matter of fact, one of the videos that Stanley may share that with the group at some point down the road, maybe not here, but one of the videos that Stanley has is about disability in and of itself, the impact of disability on a physician family. So no, what happens is this: depending on what you have to lose and what you have to replace, your plan and your disability related insurance has to reflect what you need to protect. Is that answering your question? I just want to make sure. Because
he's muted. Dr. Emily, okay.
Yeah. Yes, it does. It answers it. And when you're done, I have a second question.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So sorry, not taking all the time. When you go back to the video, incidentally, you talked about your video.
Yes.
That first video, and Stanley, you don't have to play it. The first video gave us a scenario of a physician that was in some kind of lawsuit that his insurance would cover, but we don't know the quantity. I mean, what it's going to be, maybe more than the insurance coverage, in which case they can dip into his other assets.
Yes.
That ultimately may involve him losing his home. So in a situation like that, I thought I'd get more information on that from your talk, on what we should be doing to take care of situations like that, pre and at the time, if it's possible. Although it sounded from what the attorney was telling him was kind of late trying to do it at that time. So what are your, I didn't hear any discussion points on that video.
Thank you. Thank you very much. These are exceptional questions. And I'll tell you this, a lot of insurance companies today have specific income protection policies for physicians, okay, where the definitions are pure own occupation and so on and so forth, different things, protection for doctors, okay. We have a number of cases, and I'll be happy to share some of those things with you, where physicians have been underinsured, okay, and have had exposure. When there is actual insurance, the insurance is out there to protect you. The thing is, the first part of all of this is planning. You have to have a plan. That plan creates a financial portrait and a life portrait of you, okay? And that's what you have to protect, whether it's from the business, whether it's from the risk of people who are essentially not friendly, and so on. But the plan essentially creates a portrait that now allows you to take and develop the strategies and the infrastructure to build that fortress. Some of the strategies are essentially the ownership. You can have control of your assets, but not ownership, in which case you have protection. This presentation is about protection. The objective in looking at and taking stock of where you are is in finding out where you have vulnerabilities and then plugging those vulnerabilities. And I think that the team of experts that you're looking at have the resources and the relationships expertise-wise, okay, to provide that insight and that perspective that would enable you to plug in to, first of all, identify where you have the vulnerabilities, and secondly, then provide a prescription, if you allow me to practice medical finance here, a prescription, a financial prescription for what the ailment may be.
Do you have any comments, Jerry, in terms of how do you provide protection, as Amy is talking about, in terms of what you guys do?
Well, he did a great job on clarifying the problem and explaining the issue. Most physicians are underinsured on their disability contracts, and that's what he's talking about primarily. And And he did a good job on it. Disability contracts are confusing because they're hard to understand because of definitions. You got to make sure you have the right type of contract. You got to make sure you have maximum coverage based on your revenue, and you got to match that up with what your specialty is. So there's several contracts out there that are really confusing. You got to be knowledgeable in that field to know which contract will fit your need. So that's what he's emphasizing is a very good solid disability base to build on, which we encourage the same type of strategy. Because if you become disabled and cannot perform your occupation, then all your assets are virtually lost if you have loans on them. You can't pay your bills. So you've got to have that type of contract to survive. That's the basis of all financial plans is a strong disability contract. From there, you work out onto your portfolio to structure retirement strategies, asset protection work through assets, using a good asset protection attorney, like we've talked about, and have all your assets protected for your lifetime. This process, as you won't know, Dr. Cole, is not done overnight. It takes years to have everything designed properly. So I think that he did an amazing job on showing the problem and the solution. But he's right. You got to have a plan to find the holes in which you got to build from there and make it solid. Thank you.
Any questions for anybody else so far?
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, Ifoma Okoye. My question is, are we to understand that the specific income insurance is the same as the disability insurance? And okay, go.
Go ahead, please. No, finish.
Okay. Secondly, if disability insurance, for those who have pre-existing conditions and cannot get the type of disability insurance that they want, what do you suggest, or what approach would you suggest in this?
Talking to me?
I think, Jerry, you can go. I can go. It's fine. Why don't you go, and I'll go after you. That's fine.
If you have a pre-existing condition, I just have one of my clients who had a pre-existing condition. We got a disability policy issue for him. He had back problems. The irony is, so if he becomes disabled, they're not going to insure certain conditions related to his back. But there's more than one thing that happens to a physician other than back problems. That's not you have cancer, you have heart attacks, you have stress factors cause you to be disabled. There are so many causes from disability. Car accidents are primary cause. So it's not and the number. One cause is heart attacks, cancer, and then you have mental and nervous. You've got to make sure your contract covers mental and nervous. That is the third largest claim in the medical field. So if you have a pre-existing condition, say for example your spine or your back or something like that, you've got to look at the entire picture of your life. That's not the only thing that's going to happen to you. So if you have a pre-existing condition, I would take the contract and have your advisor negotiate with the carrier to try to get it removed or reduced over time. That's all you can. Now, I have done that in the past and been very successful, but it's not. If you have a contract like that now, I would negotiate that contract out. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think Jerry actually just spoke to the substance of the response I was going to give. Thank you, Jerry. And to keep the brevity of my answer would be this: it is going to depend, or it depends. I will say this, that most of us on this call who work in this space we work real hard when we have these exceptional or out of exception related situations and cases. whether it's a new case or whether it's whatever it is. So one thing I always advise people to do is not disqualify yourself because you're not the one that has the expertise to do that. Let your advisors go to work for you and let them come back to you with what the solution is that's going to be appropriate for your situation. So it's going to depend on the specific disabilities or whatever it is that your pre-existing conditions that you may have. And Jerry touched on how some of these things would be addressed. Thank you.
And if you have a second question, I believe.
Yeah, the question, I'm not, I don't want to personalize on this, but I did this many years ago, and the premium that was given, even though it's specific, they said no, nothing specific to that. I didn't like the condition. I had to cancel it. So now the question is, what other types of financial planning can one get into to be able to protect themselves?
Sure. Again, I hate to use the answer, it depends. We can't give you any prescription financially without really going through our process. I would suggest that it is consistent across the board for everybody that's on this call that you're seeking expertise from. We all do have a process and a discipline that essentially informs what we would recommend. So I would say that if you do have some very specific questions that relate to you, I am happy to be a resource. I'm sure anybody on this call, any one of us on this call, would be happy to be a resource to help you gain the best advice or get the best advice with regard to your individual situation. The same thing applies to everyone else that's on this call. We can't obviously give specific advice without really getting information. We have to gather information. We have to get to know your history. We have our own triage process too. So we have to, so we have to go through that process before, and then we'll kind of determine exactly what the issues are that we need to attempt to resolve. It's the same thing.
That's very true.
The last question is like, apart from disability, other types of plans available, just generalizing without going into specifics, because I've looked into different types of plans. There are some that I have engaged in, but I just wanted to have an idea, apart from disability, what other things might be available.
Okay.
Yeah, I can take that.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. And just to go back to what Jerry said, and both of you, excellent presentations. A lot of what we do is planning. And in terms of planning, a lot of things must be taken into consideration. If you have retirement assets, if you have an IRA, do you have a trustee IRA? Do you have a wrapper around those assets to protect them in terms of passing them on? Do you have a trust? Do you have long-term care insurance? So if you don't have adequate disability insurance, is your long-term care insurance plan in place? What does it look like? Will it be able to provide for you when you get older and you need care? In terms of overall plan, are you thinking about opportunities for your business or personally that can help you? Do you have a cash balance plan in addition to a 401k? This is a very efficient tax-saving strategy. For most small businesses, if you have 2 or 3 people, the cash balance plan can geared primarily 97% towards the owner, so that you save retirement. So if you have issues, how are you putting more into a retirement plan than, say, a 401k can allow you to? Cash balance plans allow you to earn up to 300,000 depending on your age for retirement. Are you taking advantage? This is all a planning. We are in a very unique time frame, and Jerry talked about the phases that we're currently in. So one of the phases that we're in currently, and it's because of this crisis, it's urbanization. So a lot of people, and you all have to think about this, who lives in New York, or who lives in cities in which they're in apartments and they're in high rises and they've been quarantined with their roommates for weeks. They realize now the value of having a yard, being able to go outside and not being cooped up in a high rise. So what does that mean? That means that there are people who are now paying a premium, and this has been shown over the past 4 weeks, to rent houses. So do you have an investment into a single family home? Because that too is a part of planning, and that could be huge. And that's an opportunity because of what's created in this environment. Another opportunity that's been created in this environment, and a lot of us are not thinking about this, and again, this goes to planning. So the US government has spent $3 to $4 trillion in stimulus and relief to get the economy going. Other countries have done the same. And we've all heard the president say initially that this is a China virus. The opportunity is there because the tensions between the US and China will escalate. There's no question about that going forward. So what does that mean in terms of opportunities and planning and looking at your portfolio and your overall strategy? If we don't have things produced, and so 3 of the main things that are produced now by China, which speaks a lot to what you all do: ibuprofen, vitamin C, right? These things are produced by China primarily. If those things are brought back to the US, how are we going to replace the cheap labor that China offers? Robots, okay? And technology that supports those kinds of efforts. Those are opportunities to restructure your portfolio, your investment strategies into companies that will support those type of efforts. And again, it's all a part of planning. What do you do if one, disability insurance is not there and adequate for you? What else can you do? It's a part of your overall plan. That's what you can do. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I can add to that, the emphasis for all of us here who have professional expertise is on planning. It's a common thread. I'm sounding redundant for a particular reason because people underestimate the importance and impact of planning. This is not a plug, but a fact. At my firm, we have very specific silos and expertise that is specialized in estate planning. This is a group of attorneys, that have global reach. In tax planning, and there's a difference, my friends, between tax preparation and tax planning. So it is important to understand that the tax people who do your taxes may not provide you tax planning. The benefit of tax planning, my friends, is it is forward-looking, it is strategic, and it enables tax efficiencies that a lot of people who don't do tax planning would not realize. Then there's the insurance planning. The question originally here was about the insurance options. The truth is, the reason we have the different specialties, because we're a multidisciplinary practice, is because every single one of these things are related. There's a relationship between estate planning and tax planning and insurance planning, and that income planning, which is part of the retirement planning that we're talking about, and your investment planning. For us as a firm, each of these areas is a specific entity in and of itself. So you're going to have a team of experts working to help with answering those questions, and they do have deep expertise in these areas. So your plan or your options will basically incorporate a look at all these other elements of you, which is why, like I said earlier, we start with a portrait of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? The webinar is being recorded. It will also be posted on our Anpa YouTube page and on the website. Dr. Emily, do you want to provide closing comments?
And I let you do that, Stanley.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I would like to extend a special thank you to Amy, Jerry, and Sonia for taking that time on this Saturday to provide us with some expertise. All of these people here are experts in what they do. And just like Amy said, there's different specialties in different things. So I think for myself personally, I like to use people that have specific expertise in whatever. They're awesome people. Next week, this is an infomercial. We will be talking about practices for sale, how to sell your practice, and how to improve income in your practice with another expert, a physician Anpa member. So that will be on Saturday at 12 noon. It's been a pleasure being able to coordinate this. All of this webinar just came out of need, my own personal need and other people's needs. So it's been a pleasure. If there are no other questions, so I thank everyone that presented for keeping to their time. We did this in 1 hour and 15 minutes, which is excellent time. So I love that. Any closing comment from any other presenters?
Just a thank you to all of you for your time and your questions and giving your trust to expertise. I will say this, that whoever you use, expertise matters. Thank you very much.
Jerry?
That's true. I think I agree 100%. Both of my teams, we have certified financial planners and certified financial analysts on my team, and we have investment specialists on each team. So I agree 100% with what everybody said. You got to have a good team. You got to have advisors. You got to have annual checkups. You got to have semi-annual checkups. It's very important to be updated on your plan and to have a great plan in place and to follow that plan. When you have deviations, you got to make your advisors aware of the deviations in the plan. So we appreciate this opportunity. So I have firms in Nashville and Atlanta, Georgia. So I look forward to this opportunity, and bless you all and stay safe.
Sonia?
Thank you all again. Really, really appreciate this opportunity. AMPA is family for me. I feel that I'm a member, whether or not that's official. I am a certified financial planner. I've been in this business for over 14 years. We have 3 certified financial planners on a team that I am a lead financial advisor. Investment analyst that's been in this business for 24 years. And I think with the wealth of services and specialists that we have at Merrill Lynch, we certainly are in a position to provide not only financial plan, but holistic wealth strategies for you and your families. And again, thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to hearing from you.
And if anybody is interested in further information, further consultation, their contact information is on the screen. You can contact any Jerry or Sonia at this phone number or websites listed. Otherwise, have a wonderful Anpa weekend. And thank you for all those who served in the military for this special weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.